everyone, yes I'm back, it's Arafire with another episode of Look Out and Shout. You may have seen that on my channel I like to do some of the longer videos and typically review combiners, their individual parts and their final combined form. I'm running a little bit dry on combiners at the moment, but I do have 5 somewhat larger bots that don't combine exactly, but they are certainly worth talking about. So yes, we are going to review Gigapower. And it's a really big box. It's actually the only box I've still got. This is their Snarl, Gaudenter, to see some of the box it comes in. The box art is different, by the way. This is the metallic version of Snarl, so the box art is ever so slightly different. The ones that you get for the others are much more, I guess, promo shot orientated, and this one's more of an artwork design. Still looks very cool, very nice all the way around. And lovely display on the back. It's a really hefty box. You really do feel like you're getting something very nice indeed. Of course inside it's all polystyrened up, so let's have a look at some of the figures, shall we? Now here is Gaudenter, or Snarl, in his robot mode. Now as wonderful as he looks, he is suffering from a little bit of old age, aren't we all? As this was the first one that they put out, he does suffer from having older paint choices, paint schemes, colour palettes, and he can come across ever so slightly dull compared to some of his other Dinobot friends. You can see however good he looks, and he does look good. The red does look a little bit dull when the light's not on it, and the grey that you see he is predominantly made up of his arms and legs does look quite dull, particularly again when the light's not on it. Now this is the metallic paint scheme, as you can see, with his spines at the back, or spikes, and on his legs in Dino mode on his robot legs. So again, they can come across a little bit dark compared to a chrome version, which I do not have. But let's get him in a bit closer here, and you can see straight away some of the fantastic expressioning on the face, the sculpt for it. He comes with 2 heads, one of which I have misplaced at the moment, but this is more of an angry head. If you can see, he's gritting his teeth, ready for battle. But there is some very good designs on here, lovely carving in on a very, I don't know if that's plastic or die cast. There's a lot of heft to it, so there's definitely die cast in these figures, of course there is. But one thing that is quite good that the other figures do not have, in the early stages of Gigapower, there was a lot more attention to detail, and you get this little trinket with Snarl. The chest cavity opens up to expose some wonderful gubbins inside, and to think someone took time on that and thought, let's throw that feature in. Now okay, the chest probably isn't going anywhere, so it's easy enough to incorporate, but none of the other figures had this. They dialed that back in the latter ones. This isn't essential, but it is appreciated. So close that back up, but again you can see some lovely designs inside the clear chest there, the gold print and the carvings. It looks really nice. So again, when you look at the back, quite clean as you'd expect to see. He does want to ever so slightly lean back a bit, but that's not so much, and it does look quite slanted there, that's not so much the kibble on the back, it's more the fact that his legs are a little bit loose, and you'll see why. Now of course the Dino head folds up and splits into the back of the legs, but it doesn't clip in, it doesn't fasten. It's certainly been improved on the latter models, so these are a little bit unstable in a sense. He doesn't feel like he's going to fall over, but there's a lot of weight on this figure, and I think proportion of the weight is quite important. As you'll see, he'll stand. He's not going to fall over, but he's not indestructible. If you gave him a knock, he will fall over. And just so you can see what they're doing for joints and ratchets, everything's quite tight. The build quality is actually very good. You get sort of softer ratchets for the shoulders. There is ratchets, they will click. Sort of soft friction on the elbows, and harder ones lower down on the elbows, I should say biceps and then elbows. The hands actually feel very good, very durable. The legs on the other hand, yes, a bit weight distribution issues, but again, very tight, and they does need to be, but again with no peggy in the back, don't be surprised if you get a Dino head popping out. Now a couple of accessories that he comes with. He does come with a nice little arm rifle, which does also allegedly peg into the back of him about here, but by the time you have his spikes of his tail fanned open, I can't get the width of the back of the missile launcher to fit around here. I'm only going by what I've seen on a couple of pictures. I think that's where it goes. It's the only logical place it can go, but I've never managed to work out how to do it. but it can also go into a bit of an arm port and look like an arm missile launcher, which is quite cool. And of course, all the Dinobots come with their fantastic bastard sword that he's got in his right hand. They do light up as well. They come with tiny batteries that of course don't last very long, so you'll have to look up what size batteries they are when you want to replace them. But this is kind of the arsenal that you do get with Snarl. And for some kind of comparison, here he is alongside Masterpiece Ultra Magnus, so you can see the size we're dealing with here. Now this is, of course, the metallic paint scheme that you can get. You can get metallic and chrome and some other paint schemes which we'll cover a bit later. But it's still very good. I love the crossover of detailing. As you see, it is a Dinobot, but it's not as clean as it was in a Generation 1 cartoon, where it would have just been a complete flat sheen of a side panel. This actually has intricacies of detail. If I bring it in, you can see, if the glare's not too much. And you can see some of the level of attention to detail, even by the crafted lines on the spines. It's very articulate in its way, or very well presented. And for a first run figure in a market they didn't particularly explore, I think it's a very good first impression. One thing that's worth mentioning, of course, with this being the first run, is that the movement on the legs in Dino mode, they are just soft ratchets at the back and friction at the front, so no hard ratchets in the early run, which you can understand considering they didn't know how far they were going to go in this set at this time of release. And would you believe I don't have many other Stegosauruses to compare him with, but how about this Generation 2 Snarl along his much bigger and yet much younger brother. One thing Gigapower felt the need to do when they released Snarl was to provide all of these flame effects, and really by the end of it they were just designed to come out of their mouths as breathing fire or to go on their swords as flame effects. But with Snarl they gave him a set to go onto his feet like he's roller skating on fire. It's a very unusual choice, and actually the first time I've actually set him up like this. The light picks it up quite well. It's something you can do, maybe good for photo opportunities, but that's about it. And moving on next, we have Grassor, or Slag, or Slug, and this is where the set really took off in my eyes. I think this is where Gigapower learned from their Snarl, their first issue, as this was the second release, and said, do you know what, we're going to make some changes here to our design, and things pop so much more in all the right areas, particularly when you do a comparison against the two. The grey used across the arms and the legs looks much brighter. There's a lot more life to it. And of course this is the chrome. You can see from his hood and his feet, instantly more reflective. But even the red, there's now more of a cherry red than a dark red on the body. It's just a very attractive figure. Very solid, very sturdy build quality. And it's still got all of the fun that you'd expect. There was no compromises made with the changes. They just learned from, I guess, some feedback as well. And they carried on and improved with each figure. But let's get in closer. Now, of course, he is a very angry chappy, as we all know, but he does come with a couple of other expression faces and heads, so this is another one he comes with for a more calmer flavour of Slag, or Slug. And he does actually come with a full red one, but again, guess what? I've misplaced that. Sorry about that. It does look good, but for me, this is the right level of red to face ratio. But it just looks so good and so vibrant. The blue eyes look piercing. The red detailing is very good, very expression orientated. It's just very angry and he's going to come at you. But again, look, the joints got so... This is proper Ratchet territory. This is where, again, listen to that. Gigapower took it on board for what they needed to change. It's not perfect, of course. Not many of them are. The hands, the fingers, the digits does feel a bit flimsy, and this actually becomes a bit of an issue throughout the Gigapower line, sadly. But if that is the final error, flimsy fingers, then so be it. The back, again, with this being the chrome set, just looks so attractive. Look at that. Particularly with the light on it, just so reflective. The detailing, which ultimately forms the back of him, which we'll see when I get him transformed up, it just looks so gorgeous. You just want to stare at it. But even a little intricacy of detailing, these blue bits on the shoulders, which I can't recall him having. I think this is something that Gigapower took upon themselves to put in these little micro details. Still have lovely carvings on the inside of the chest pieces and either side as well. It's a very, very lovely figure. Now again, Gigapower definitely learnt from this. Look at the detailing you got on the feet, by the way. They just look really, really good. But they learnt, and they put a little clasp in. If you can just see there. You can just see it there. It pegs in, and that's what keeps the side of the leg attached. And when you can unpeg that, the entire back half of the leg splits open, and you can see the Dino leg all collapses and folds up and inside. It's a very, very tidy way of doing it. But I know what you'll say, that's not what the G1 toy looked like. Well, don't worry, they've got you covered, because you can get a couple of faux parts. A couple of fake outer legs, which you can attach and basically stick on the side to be a more G1 aesthetic toy. Now, it's not something that I've done myself. I think it's a bit of a faff to do, but to make it look like a very G1 accurate toy, it's a nice feature that Gigapower took the time. Now, of course, accessory wise, he comes with his massive sword, which also comes with some flame effects. Now, I can't remember if these flame effects in particular came with Slag or with Snarl. May have come with Snarl, but it gives the flaming sword effect, and of course the sword itself can light up, so that glows really nicely. It also comes with a massive Dino blaster that just looks so good. They all come with their own form of gun, mostly, and they just look really mega menacing. Again, this lights up as well with some very small batteries, which of course don't last very long. Oh, it's so damn hard to keep these guys in the same shot. And for not much of a comparison, but it's quite a nice one nevertheless, this is how he compares alongside Fans Toys Goose, their Skydive, and I think that works quite well, particularly in relation to the Generation 1 cartoon. So here he is in his Dino mode, and this really got me all into the set. Not that I was on the fence when I picked up Snarl, but when I saw this I could see the direction Gigapower was going, and I just wanted to be in it all the more. So if I get it in closer, there's just so much chunkiness to this. It's so satisfying to pick up and hold, and again, this is the chrome, whereas with Snarl this was a metallic paint scheme, and it's just got so much character to it. It's just heft. It's big, it's reflective, and it's really just what you want the character to be. This is how you want him to be represented. I will say one thing that I've just noticed over time, this top bit, which I guess can move out of the way to ease transformation, is a little loose. Just a tiny bit, not the end of the world. On the metallic paint scheme as well, I've noticed the horns are much more of a cartoon accurate grey, whereas on the chrome they come through as red. I think the red looks quite nice anyway, so I'm very happy with it. It's just such an imposing bot, and by this point, this is where you started getting ratchets on the feet, and you felt the sturdiness was coming through a lot more. You really felt you were getting bang for your buck. I love, again, the detailing on the side to give it that Gigapower feel, the clear translucent with the detailing behind it, the movable, very reflective tail, which does like to pop out occasionally, but still, this was their second attempt at a Dinobot, and this got me completely into the set. One thing you can do, and he's got his little gun here that you can stick flame effects on, which I think you have to buy separately. They certainly didn't come with my figure, and they are flame effects that kind of ride along with the floor. Because as we think about it, back in the cartoon, Slag was the one who probably breathed fire the most, so when you get those effects it does look quite good, but it is again just a bit of a gimmicky thing you can find. And this is somewhat confused look. And again, I don't have another Triceratops to hand, but here he is alongside Kang Toys Tantrum, just so they can lock horns. Again, this is what got me into this set. I just love how it looks. The chrome pops so well on this figure. They really set themselves on the right path. The transformation is a bit fiddly, not everything tabs in, probably more so on this figure than any other one, but you're so happy with the final result. He's so great in both modes. Comes with a load of accessories, all the flame kits, the flame swords as well. He's just got so much character. For a very beloved character, it's just everything you want in a massive Triceratops. And next up we have Graviter, or Sludge. And this, I've got to say, is probably my favourite one of the set. I didn't expect to love this one as much as I did. Is it perfect? No, it's not, but what you get out of this is just exceptional. And I was so committed by this point to get the chrome set, particularly when you see it in Dino mode. This is so pretty, so reflective, but you can tell in this mode alone, look at the size of the chest, it somehow seems bigger compared to the other two. It just looks so good and so alive. despite having a bit of a bland head sculpt, which we'll get into in a minute. But the sheer presence, when you look at the legs, the fact that he's got the Dino feet ever so slightly tucked in, but with the Dino wings as well, making the shell of the body in Dino mode, it's trying to hide at the same time. It's still just overwhelmingly heft, and this is where I was so committed to the Gigapower set. But let's get a closer look. So you can see straight away just how large it looks. I mean, the wings do take up a bit of room, it has to be said. I call them wings, they look like wings, they're not wings per se, but it still just looks fantastic. And the red is getting more and more cherry red all the time. It's more of a letterbox red at this point, and you still have the intricacy of the details behind. It just looks so good. The expression on the face may be a bit bland, but still, he's never been the sharpest knife in the drawer, has he? But he's so heavy, so much heft again. The legs, using that new class system that's on there, which is actually now on all the Dinobot figures that Gigapower released. There's so much heft here. It's really, really good. Let's just get a look at the back as well. And this is how he looks from the back, and just look how good he looks. Look how reflective this is. And again, fantastic detailing, which they didn't have to put on. Gigapower decided to go their direction with this. But listen to this. Almost musical. It's very charming and lovely. It's just such a gorgeous figure. It is my favourite in the collection. I just absolutely love it. Now I will point out one thing. Whilst he's probably my favourite Gigabot figure, it's not perfect, and this has happened a couple of times, but I want to give it a mention. If I, again, listen to this. Oh, now that is so satisfying. But again, also, actually, whilst I'm here, I'll show you this. Look at this. If I get that down in a bit better focus. Look at that. Elbow pistons underneath the elbow bend. Just there. Again, they didn't need to do that, but it's appreciated. Lovely stuff. But that's not what I was going to show you. I had this issue quite early on. I only transformed this once before. This was the second time I got around to transforming it. And if I open up, you'll see. You can just about see there, the thumb broke off. And I've got it somewhere. It was a very small digit, and it was a very tight ball joint that it connects into. And it obviously folds into the cross of the palm, as we have seen many Transformers do over years. And I pulled it back out the way, and it just came away and broke off so easily. And I contacted Gigapower directly, and they were so good to me. They sent it out to me in a small little jiffy bag, and it came along, addressed to me, no charge whatsoever. And I did say to them that it is only the second time I transformed it. It is a shame, but they corrected it very well. Fantastic customer service. Well done. No, unfortunately, as I was transforming this today, it happened on the other hand as well. So he's now got no thumbs. Insert Family Guy reference here. But nevertheless, it is to be expected. It's a shame when stuff breaks. It's small bits of plastic on a very hefty figure. I guess you can forgive it to a point. It's a shame it's on the hands and it will damage the resale value, but I have no intent of reselling these. Just to show you as well, he comes with another head. This one's more of an angry head. You can see he's got a very grumpy face on, and I didn't really like it. For some reason it didn't really suit well with me. I prefer what he currently had. Maybe it was the red eyes. But he's known for being a bit dopey Diplodocus. I'm going to edit that out. And you can see here he is with all of his accessories, and it's quite a lot going on. He is known as a gunner, and guns is certainly what he has. He's got some wonderful shoulder cannons, which actually look quite good on him. I did have real difficulty this time getting the gun and the sword in. I don't know why, but I just struggled to get him into those hands. The hands do seem to be the biggest issue with him, if anything. But there he is, armed up to the hilt. Very, very menacing indeed. And just so you can see how far we've come, here he is alongside Gaudenter, Snarl, and I'm not entirely sure of the releases. Maybe this was 2016, maybe this was 2018, something like that. But this is quite a change from how Gigapower started to where they've ended up. You can see the differences and the changes they made in the paint scheme. Yes, okay, this is a metallic paint scheme, this is a chrome paint scheme. They were always going to be slightly different, but you can see how Gigapower approached things differently after a little while. But it is a wonderful improvement. And here is Sludge in his Dino mode. This is a wonderful, incredibly long version of Sludge. I think it is a miraculously done transformer to get the length on it to look so good, so clean, so reflective. This is really where you see the chrome really come into its own, particularly when you look around the back of the figure and the tail picks up that reflective chrome look. What I've done is I've put the kind of diaclone clear bits on, because if you take them off, if I just show you, it actually comes up a fair bit shorter. So whilst it's not a disaster, certainly I feel it looks better with it on. You can see it's quite difficult keeping it all in a shot. I love the expressiveness of the head. I do think the eyes look ever so slightly dead. If I bring it in a bit closer, you can see, I don't know if it's light piping or just a very dark reflective tint, but they don't pop as much as I would like. I've put an insignia sticker on his forehead as well. I do wish the neck would go maybe a little bit higher. I do love just the sheer presence of this figure. It's meant to look fantastic. It's not meant to be articulate, it certainly isn't, but it's a hefty dinosaur. I mean, how much can it move? You've got all the typical ratchets on the legs, very hefty ratchets, and it would need to be, and the softer joints on the back, but it's not meant to look necessarily there for posability. It's meant to look empowering. It's meant to look a really dominant Dinobot. And it is. This is what the Dinobots should look like. They should look intimidating just by standing still. I do wish the neck would maybe go up a bit more for articulation purposes, but the sheer length of it, particularly with the extension on the tail, that is just a wonderful done dinosaur. And of course the only thing I could possibly compare it to would be the War for Cybertron Commander class Skylynx. It's the only thing I've got with an extendable neck. And next up, of course, we have Gaudenter, the Majestic Swoop. And this is quite a bit different for Gigapower. It's obviously a skinnier Dinobot, he always is, his Swoop. So I did wonder how this Dinobot was going to alter the design, particularly compared to the last three. By this point, Gigapower knew what they wanted to do, but Snarl, Slag and Sludge, they were all quite similar in robot mode. They had a similar design throughout. Swoop was always going to be more challenging. Now, again, this is the chrome version, but it did come with the more traditional cartoon blue that you see here for his body, but also comes with a red to be more toy accurate and I suppose comic accurate as well. But let's get in closer and have a little swoop at Swoop. Now, of course, the first thing you notice are those majestic wings of his, particularly in the chrome, and this is where the chrome set just wins, hands down. I've seen the metallic edition, doesn't look bad, but this is just a glorious idea for his entire wingspan to be complete chrome. But it doesn't mean to say that the rest of it isn't really pretty. It really is. You see the rest of his head, it's a lovely metallic red. It's very reflective. Not my favourite face expression of the lot, but does its job. The body does look very clean, very pristine, again with the pterodactyl head running all the way down. I put an insignia on there, of course. The back cleans up exceptionally well. Look at that. But we'll do a wider shot in a second. It is a very nice figure indeed. Now I will point out, and you've probably seen it as well, there's these little shin guards which do like to pop off, but I'm sure we haven't seen the last of them just yet. The feet are completely different. Now this is quite interesting, and I'll tell you about it once I've transformed it a bit more, but these are the legs that fold onto the back for bird mode, for alt mode, and they peg in with some wonderful teeth design. If I unpeg them, you can see. And that is what brings the leg down from when it's in the back, and once it's straight down, you just peg them in and they're fastened, and they're nothing more than pegs. But it's very simple, but very welcome, not over-engineered at all. The transformation on Swoop is very straightforward, in fact. It's very much a joy to handle, particularly when you get it into this pose. Wow, that is just exceptional. That is just a feat of engineering, a glorious wingspan, folds away, very sturdy. I mean, clearly Swoop is 50% wings, so a lot of thought had to go into how are we going to present the wings, but just looks so magnificent. It's so reflective, and you just want to pose him like that. It's just an inspiring piece. But again, if I show you around the back of it, if I turn him around, again, look how reflective that is. It's just exceptional. And it just makes you want to stare at it all day long. One thing about the wings, of course, is once you fold them back down, they fold back into themselves. All folded up nicely like a piece of paper. You can decide if you want to have them slightly tilted up to be out of the way, or if you have it down by the side, you can just fold them straight back. So it suits your shelving and displaying needs. Probably one flaw here, I suppose, is with the thinness of the legs. The feet are a little bit unsteady to a point. It's hard to say that because they are quite large feet, but again, with him being so balanced on the wings, there probably isn't enough back balance on the heel to really give him support. Occasionally you do feel like he's going to go. Of course, this time he stands. So sometimes you just feel like he wants to topple that little bit. So maybe that's just one thing that could have been done a bit better. And also for transformation, these side panels pop in where the arm folds down to the side of the body. My one doesn't always retract back out. That's just my issue. Accessory wise, he actually comes with quite a bit, even though by this point Gigapower was sort of trimming back on some of the accessories. He comes of course with an alternate head, which goes on, which is a much more angrier expression, and a lot of people prefer this head. I do as well, but a lot of people want the chrome Dino head, the beak, where this one is the more permanently fixed Diaclone clear plastic, and people want that Robo head on that pterodactyl head as it's all one piece, and some people have taken it apart and swapped it over. For me, that's a bit of a faff. I'm not going to go into that, but it's another head should you want angry swoop. And of course he comes with two of everything. He has two swords this time as opposed to the one, and he has two rocket launchers or missile launchers, which he can also use as guns. They fold down and can peg into his hands. And of course, for comparison, how could it be anyone else? This is Battle of the Wingspan. Here he is alongside Kang Toy's version of Dive Bomb. Actually, the two of them would be Dive Bomb according to the comics, but they scale really well together in both modes. So here is Swoop, or Gaudenter, to give him his Gigapower name. This is the figure that would have been make or break for this set. This is the one that even the Generation 1 toy, in comparison to the other Dinobots, was completely different. They had to completely rethink the mould, and in this case it's no exception. You've got to make it very large, very reflective, very big, and still be very imposing while still being a bit of a different Dinobot. But I'm very pleased to say they really do smash this one. I think this is the best representation of Swoop out there for a number of reasons. But first things first, just look at one, how big he is and how reflective it is. We'll get to that in a minute, but the reflectiveness on the beak, again, this is the chrome set. So if I bring it in, you might be able to see, and I have put stickers on his eyes. If I turn it to the side, you can just about see, and a sticker on his beak as well for the Autobot symbol. It's just got so much glow to it. It's a lovely chrome, but that's not where this really comes into its own. This is where it comes into its own. That is one mega impressive wingspan, and the fact that it's all chrome. When I got this transformed up for the first time with that wingspan so flat out, I thought, wow, that's impressive. That looks so good. It folds away nicely, it's rigid, it's not going to break on you. It looks like it's made out of tinfoil, and it isn't. It's so beautiful. You just want to stare at it with the reflective glow. And that is where the beast mode on this figure, the Dino mode I should say, just looks exceptional. It's not small, you're going to struggle to house it in your collection. But don't worry, Gigapower's got you covered on that score. So this structure, for lack of a better term, is a flight stand really, for either robot mode or Dino mode that comes with Swoop. I felt this was a bit unnecessary, a bit lavish, but then again, giant dinosaurs, what's not lavish? It is very good, it's a nice design, and you can display your other dinos around it. It's going to give you plenty of clearance. However, I've got a bit of an issue with mine. It comes with an interchangeable head at the very top, and that design is for the robot mode. Now I wanted to use this to pose the dinosaur mode, but I couldn't unscrew it. I was going around with a micro screwdriver and nothing was turning, to the point that I was possibly damaging the screw head trying to get it out. So I couldn't get it to clip in, and it's a shame because this would look very towering in full Dino mode to have him swooping so high, to coin a phrase, and the fact that I can't get him to actually clip in is quite a shame. But that's just a fault on my one. Everyone else's one might be absolutely fine. but I can rest him on top, and that is what he looks like. It just looks magnificent. One of the shin pegs did pop out for me early on. It's not a big deal, it hasn't broken, it's just the glue around it hasn't set, and actually if I just push it in, it will slot back on easy enough, and you'll never know. And I haven't got him transformed up, but you can see behind there is Kang Toy's Dive Bomb, and you can see the wingspan we're dealing with here. I actually think Dive Bomb in bird mode, in beast mode, and is actually a bigger wingspan than Swoop when he's all transformed up, but nevertheless we are talking large on both scales here for both figures. Just one thing I wanted to point out as well, this one didn't come with any flame effects. Again, this is the chrome version. I think the metallic edition came with something that you could unscrew for the rockets, and it could have like a firing flame effect warhead, which looked quite cool, particularly on the flight stand. This one doesn't come with it, but again it has a gun in the mouth that you could possibly stick a flame effect on. They started to wind them back a little bit by this point. And of course we finish off with Superator, their Grimlock, and it really was saving the best till last. I mean, it does look like every other Grimlock we've seen throughout the years, but this just looks and feels different. Believe me, this is A grade Grimlock. It's so impressive, so hench, and of course one of Grimlock's backstories, depending where you get your backstories from, is that he was a gladiator on Cybertron. And you can look at this and you can really feel that gladiatorial stance. Are you not entertained? The massive shoulders, broad chest. He is there to cause trouble and nothing else. So let's get in a bit closer. I mean, that is just so impressive. Again, the paint that is used is a lovely light grey, metallic grey. Again, this is the chrome paint, but the chrome on the body is so reflective. Again, the intricacies on the detailing. Also, I don't know if you can see, just behind his head, look at all the detailing on that. You never look at that. That's just the fold between the Dino head and his head. Articulation is a bit limited, I will say that, for Grimlock. You can't really get too much left and right out of it. Just kind of looks down at you, but when you're that big, I suppose you can only look down. Look at this though, on the inside of the, again, wings, not wings, but look at, again, the detailing. And I love this. I fell in love with this as soon as I saw it on the pre-production shots, this inner red lining, which I don't think I've seen on any other version of a Grimlock, even a Fans Toys version. I just think that looks so good. And it's just a very, very lovely piece. You can see again this detailing on the back. I did wonder at first if this could be a bit much, a bit too much detail, but it works. It just looks very captivating. Again, it transforms and looks exactly like every Grimlock has before, but it is a very impressive piece, very hefty. The feet are very nice and clear, very detailing. Again, uses the same clasp as everything else. I would say one thing that is a bit of an issue, and I'll get it out of the way now. You do get an ankle tilt, but you get it the wrong way. That's all you get. It's this bit here that slides down, and he gets an outward ankle tilt, which doesn't really work for poses, which is a bit interesting. One thing you do get, and this is again a bit of an unusual thing, but it does help him looking down. If you push in, I guess you call it a button or a lever at the back here, it kind of releases a clasp on the waist, and you get an ab crunch. It's stiff as anything. But he looks down. It's, again, very unusual, but an ab crunch on a Grimlock. I don't think I've ever seen that before. And of course, he comes with a couple of accessories. First off, this is his famous crown that is more associated with the Marvel Comics version, where he was the leader of the Autobots for a time. He also comes with another head, like most of the other Gigabots, and this is a red visor, but it has a bit more of an IDW style teeth imprint, if you can see that. You can probably just about see there. So you get more of the bearing teeth on the side. And it does look good, but again, to go for the more G1 aesthetic, and particularly cartoon aesthetic, there he is with the blue visor. And of course, for accessories, he comes with his very much Grimlock-esque gun and a broadsword like anyone else. But I'll get a better look at that gun for you, because it is pretty impressive. You can just see, that is such detailing on the inner of the gun as well. I can't stress how large it is. That is, I don't know, about 4 inches. Very big, very hefty, as is everything with this set, and why not for Grimlock? It's just a complete gladiatorial figure. And for comparison, here he is alongside my Magic Square version of a Masterpiece Optimus Prime, and I think that looks really good together. They are obviously a completely different paint scheme and paint palette, but I think for height wise, I think that looks fantastic. Prime is not exactly small, but Grimlock is definitely not small. I think that just looks so good together. Transformation is, of course, like any other Grimlock from before, and we'll see that in a minute, but it's got tremendous amount of articulation, more so in robot mode than in Dino mode, but there's got softer ratchets on the shoulders now. Not quite so loud as with maybe Slag or Sludge, but strong enough to do the job, particularly as this is going to be his legs in Dino mode, but then much harder ratchets on the outward. Oh, I just love that noise. So many teeth to them, which of course Grimlock has loads of teeth anyway. And the legs, much sturdier, probably the sturdiest legs of all. Nothing's going to let you down there. It's a shame there's no inward ankle tilt. That's the only thing I would say that lets this figure down from an articulation perspective. Now, one thing that this figure does suffer from is, if I get this out of the way, you can maybe see. This panel, you can see the groove line for it. It actually does come away. It broke away on me once, or a couple of times. And it's no big deal, it can clip back in, a bit like Swoop. It's just something that's going to need a bit of glue and attention. But I remember I was transforming it, and I was trying to get this peg out for transformation, and it fell away, and I thought, oh no, I thought I'd broken something off the solid chest piece. But just a minor thing. That's the only QC issue. No finger issue. These fingers are sturdy. All of the inner pegs, it's very, very safe. It's not going to harm you at all. Okay, maybe the sharp Dino fingers might harm you, and his teeth no less. Very sharp. But the arm joints themselves are on a ball joint. It is the last figure that Gigapower put out in this mould. They had time to perfect their formula. By the time Grimlock came round, they knew how sturdy they needed to make things, how loose they had to make some other things, and this is the final product. It's just so good. I mean, it is Grimlock. He transforms exactly how Grimlock has always transformed, and he looks exactly how he would always look. But my God, doesn't he look good? And he weighs so much. Again, I think when some people were seeing the prototype shots, they weren't entirely sure this was going to be the one for them, and a lot of people were saying, is the Fans Toys Grimlock better? But getting this in hand and the sheer weight, this was one that I rushed home to get, and that was outside my front door, and I made sure I picked this up. I didn't want someone walking off with it, and it's just so good. It's so big, so clean as well, but the weight is second to none. Let me show you some of the detailing. So again, typical Gigapower, we got some lovely detailing, even some of the finer green that's on there and the blue with the red, but I just thought things like the inner lays of the hips just look really nice. Again, the chrome paint scheme and the fabulous detail inside the shield there looks so good. It looks just the same as it always did. You know, he's Grimlock, he's always looked the same, but he looks so imposing, and he's really, really tall as well. As you can probably see, I can barely get him in a shot. He's so tall, he fits in my display cabinet, but only just. For posability, that's about as much as you can get out of him. I mean, you do get these wonderful inter-moving and digitive fingers, but they are quite sturdy as well. They do move quite stiff, but he just looks so good, so impressive. It's just beautiful. And again, look at the chrome teeth, and they are sharp as well, very sharp. It is the best till last is probably right. It is such a complete figure. Now this is something I found a bit strange. On pretty much all the other sets, or really all the other sets, they came with the clear plastic to be like the Diaclone look that you could take on or off. But with Grimlock, we've always kind of known he's had this kind of clear plastic neck brace, and you would see all the detailing underneath. But as opposed to all the other ones where you can put it on to make it look like a Diaclone figure, this you can actually remove it, which was very unexpected. And that's really to tell you what Grimlock looks like underneath his neck. And it's very strange. I mean, look at the crispness on the detailing. I've only really seen it once before, but it's sculpted to such intricacy. Someone's taken time on that. And it looks great. At the same time, it looks like he's been wearing a scarf for years and he's just taken it off for the first time. It looks strange. I don't like it. I do like it. It looks wonderful. But it's a really strange thing that you could do that Gigapower decided to go the other way with it. Take off the Diaclone parts to expose the bare neck. And yes, wouldn't you know it, I still have my old G1 Dinobot from back in the day, who's looking a bit sad now, it has to be said. But of course, this is some comparison for you. The only other Grimlock I've got, still currently in my collection. And if that isn't a wonderful group shot, I don't know what is. I mean, they look tremendous as they are. They look just massive, massive dinosaurs. I mean, what's not to like about that? But together, it's a complete set. These are the best Dinobots on the market. There's no question in my mind. They are big. They will eat up space in your collection. But my god, are they worth it. Now, yes, you can see the glaring one on the right here is Snarl. I've got him in a metallic paint scheme and everyone else is in chrome. I picked up Snarl a bit late and all the chrome were gone. And I picked up chrome for the rest because I felt they looked better. And particularly, I think Snarl will probably look the best because of all of his spines and his tail would look lovely, particularly in robot mode. It's a shame, but I just think it looks so good like this. I think they just look... This is what they should look like. This is what we expect masterpiece Dinobots to look like. They're big, they're heft, they're over the top. At this point they shouldn't combine. Of course not, but they don't need to combine because they're so large. They're metallic dinosaurs. And this is what Gigapower captured so beautifully. The chrome is gorgeous, as you can see with the light on it. It's so reflective. Just about keep them all on the same table. They're just magnificent. And you can see just how large they are where I put Masterpiece Sunstreaker up front. And it really doesn't look like Masterpiece is the word for him. He's absolutely dwarfed by these guys. So I will just say this as I've got them all here. Transformation on them can be quite similar, particularly with Sludge, Slag and Snarl. They transform much the same way. Grimlock transforms the same way he's always done, and probably Swoop does as well. Swoop is the easiest transformation because, as you can imagine, legs roll down from the back, arms pop out from the side. Pretty straightforward. His head is really his head in one mode or the other. It's pretty straightforward. The Gigapower have their way of doing their dino legs. You have to unclasp a certain way of keeping it in. Sludge has probably got the hardest one to do in that sense of folding in his hefty back legs. It works, it packs everything away quite nicely, but this is the thing, when you're dealing with bots on this size, on this scale, the transformation becomes quite clunky. And here they all are together. I mean, I've had to come this far out and even turn Swoop right on his side just to get them all in the same shot. They just look and are magnificent when you get all 5 of them together. I'm not sure it's going to do them some justice, but I'll put some pictures up at the end. I think this is the best set of Dinobots out on the market. I know you'll get people saying that Fans Toys do it better, and they scale more with the Masterpiece line, and that's down to people, that's down to perspectives. Fans Toys won't do inferior quality by any means, but Gigapower went after the Dinobots and made them accentuated and large because it suited their personalities, and this is the end result. Quite frankly, there is nothing better on the market. I do wish from my own perspective that I had a chrome Snarl just to complete the image, but they just look so good. The joints feel nice and tight with the heavy ratchets. It just suits their personality so well. Let's make them big. Let's make their joints big. Let's make their alt modes big. And they've done everything right. The accessories went maybe a bit overboard with the Diaclone set, but I'm not going to besmirch Gigapower for giving us too much choice. It's nice to have the options, but by the time we got round to Swoop and Grimlock, they dialed back on some of them. They're just so good. I'm absolutely in awe of them. They will kill your space. They will take up so much space, as you can see here. So you've got to think about, if you're going to go in for this set, you've got to think about where you're going to keep them, where you're going to store them. And they're not cheap. They are not cheap. But I think this is for what I paid for them at the time of release. I think they're worth it. I really do. For what you're getting, for volume of plastic and die-cast, there's just nothing better. There's no better representation of the largest Transformers, on this scale anyway, that we know from particularly the Generation 1 days. Right, so now we've had a look at the figures themselves, just a few points about Gigapower as a company I want to talk about. First things first for me is their customer service has been exceptional, at least in my case. I've contacted them on a few occasions, as you saw with the breakages I had with Sludge's thumbs, which he no longer has. They were more than happy to send out a replacement hand, which I can screw off and apply at any time that I like. I just haven't got round to it. But it is wonderful that they decided to do that at no extra charge for me. I also contacted Gigapower directly. I didn't go through a retailer or whoever I purchased from, just contacted them direct, and they were more than happy to talk to me. Another thing as well is I actually suggested to them, when it came to Swoop's stand for Gaudenter, to give him his name, I even suggested to them that maybe as another design they can make a transparent stand, so you obviously wouldn't see it as much when he's sitting on top. And they seem to appreciate the suggestion, which I was quite pleased with. The Dinobots are very good, they're hefty, they're lovely, but we've seen it. What else can they do? Their formula is good, the direction they go in is very enjoyable. Let's see some more figures, let's see something a bit different. Let's see another toy line. That's something completely different. Would they go into the Unicron trilogy? Would they go into Beast Wars, Beast Machines? They've clearly got the technology to go wherever they want. Let's just hope the Dinobots isn't all they are. That's the only thing I'd say about them. Right, time to go through my ratings. Snarl, 3 Rodimus Star Badges. Slug, 4 Rodimus Star Badges. Sludge, 4.5 Rodimus Star Badges. Swoop, 4 Rodimus Star Badges. And Grimlock, 4 Rodimus Star Badges. So yes, it's pretty clear to see that Sludge is my favourite. I just love how he looks, even with a couple of QC issues here and there, and he has got them, but I just love him. He's great. He is the one that I will never get rid of. Out of all of the Gigapower set, I actually don't think I could part with this one. It's funny, he's not really a character I ever cared about, but they did it so right with him. I will say this straight away, you will get people who prefer the Fans Toys versions over this, and the Fans Toys versions look very good. Fans Toys do not do bad quality. But Gigapower for me have won the war in this case. They just look so good in both modes. The over-accentuated size fits the Dinobots to a T, where whilst the Fans Toys version may scale more with the Masterpiece figures, I feel this suits better for the Masterpiece figures. They were designed to be big. They were able to bring a fight to Devastator without the need to combine. They have to be big, they have to be over-accentuated, they have to be large, and Gigapower knew exactly the direction they wanted to go in, and that's why I think they are the best Dinobots on the market. And there you go, that is my review of the Gigapower Dinobots Gigasaurs. Thanks for watching, don't forget to like, share and hit the subscribe button, and I will see you on the next one.